Welcome to First Byte, our Detroit Lions preview podcast. Free for the PrideDetroit.com. Doing things a little differently this week because it is week 18. The Detroit Lions have already clinched the division. They've already clinched a playoff spot. They've pretty much clinched the 3 seed. Not completely, but mostly have. And so we're not going to only talk about the Detroit Lions versus Minnesota Vikings game this week. We are going to talk a little bit more about all of Week 18 and the playoff implications for the Lions. But before we get into that, my name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online. And I was going to say my only guest. You're not my guest. The only person I am going to converse with over the next 30 to 45 minutes is the co-host of First Byte, is the senior editor of Pride of Detroit, is at Ryan_POD on Twitter. Ryan Matthews is here. Ryan, we've made it.
We've made it. You can be honest with the people, though. Like, just say that you couldn't stand 8 hours of Arif Hassan within 4 weeks of your life.
The live audience is upset that Arif isn't here, and understandably so. We had a long conversation whether we were going to bring Arif on for another conversation or not. If you do want more Arif Hassan, I did literally just get done recording over an hour with him on the Norse Code podcast, Norse Code podcast. So if you want more Arif, and that's fine if you do. I wanted more Arif. This is all the schedule maker's fault, because we just talked to him 2 weeks ago. There's not much at stake this week. You already pretty much know everything. Like, maybe if they were even starting a different quarterback, we'd bring Arif on. But we already know who Nick Mullins is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you were expecting a long conversation about the Minnesota Vikings and all the hilarity that Arif brings. But it's just going to be us two. We are going to take this first segment to talk about the game coming up. But we're mostly going to talk about kind of like things we're looking forward to, things we want to see. Because, again, the Lions win this game. It doesn't even necessarily mean they get the second seed. They need a lot to happen, which we'll talk about in the second segment. So let's talk about the game. Let's put the game in front of us here. The Lions, let's start with playing their starters, because I think that's a pretty big topic that everyone likes to talk about and debate. And the Lions have made it pretty darn clear that they are going to play their starters. You know, Dan Campbell said, if the 2 seed is still available to us, then we are going to try to win it. And because everything else that has to happen happens at 4:30 or later, the 2 seed is going to be on the table by the time this game starts and throughout the entire game. So, do you agree with that, Ryan? Is that the right approach?
I don't know if it's the right approach, but it's Dan Campbell's approach. And I guess all of us should have understood that this was coming no matter what, right? Like, we understand that this guy, I think here's what's important to note, though, right? Is Dan has been on either side of the locker room.
Yep.
He's been a coach. He's been a player. He knows what it feels like to be an NFL player at the end of a grueling NFL regular season. He wouldn't push these guys beyond their limits, right? He knows, and I think that's the thing maybe that most of us don't outwardly appreciate about Dan Campbell, but I think all of us subconsciously do, is that this guy knows when to push the pedal and when to back off when it comes to, keeping players healthy and keeping them, in the right spot and in the right situation. And I think that week 18, the 2 seed is still on the table, Jeremy. I agree with what Dan is doing. I know did the comments that he made, forget after which week it was, maybe it was after the Vikings game, the Lions had wrapped up the division. Did the comments that he made about, like, players can rest when the season's over, did that rub you the wrong way? Did that?
No, it did.
But it brought us here, right? Like, we knew what was going to happen in week 18 no matter what.
Correct. I'm a little mixed, because I do think the Lions should take this opportunity to get some rest. I don't think they need to go into this week thinking we've got to win this one for the 2 seed. I do think the 2 seed is far enough away where it's not realistic. And maybe there's a scenario in which Dallas loses as 14-point favorites and you kick yourselves saying, man, we could have had that 2 seed if we had tried a little bit harder. One, I don't think it matters that much. Two, I think that the scenario I'm talking about is so out of whack, so out of reach that it's not going to happen. But I also think I think there's this perception of resting your starters that is like, yeah, we're just going to play no starters. That is physically impossible. You can't do that with an NFL roster. You do not have enough call-ups from the practice squad. You don't have a deep enough bench to do that. If the Lions wanted to rest all 5 of their offensive linemen, they can't even do that. They have 8 active on the roster. They have to play at least 2 of them. And considering, you want your quarterback to live, you probably want 4 of them to play, at least. So,
right. That's not a situation that you want to put Hendon Hooker in.
Right. No.
And that's no way to treat Teddy Bridgewater in his last NFL regular season game.
Exactly. Especially against a complicated defense like Brian Flores. Like, that is not setting up anyone for success. So, in that essence, yeah, of course, they're going to kind of have to play their starters because that's just how it works. The rosters aren't big enough. But, do I want to see Amon-Ra play in this game? No. Do I want to really see Jared Goff play in this game? No. Aiden Hutchinson? No. I think your superstars, the guys that you're going to have to rely on, I kind of wish they'd be sitting in this week. It's not this. I'm not going to bury Dan Campbell for this. Even if one of those players, God forbid, gets injured in this game, I'm not going to bury him because I understand what he's doing. I get his point of view. It's just not what I would do. That doesn't necessarily make him an idiot or me a genius. I would say maybe the latter of that is true anyways, but I'm just saying this isn't how I would run it, and I'm not going to flip tables over it.
Sure. Well, I think the next thing to talk about, though, is there are a couple of guys who, I don't know if you want to call them superstars, but they're going to be very important pieces for the Lions in the postseason. Aleem McNeil and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right?
Yeah.
We're expecting to get both those guys back on the field on Sunday. Let's start with CJ, okay? Yeah. Because I thought the Aaron Glenn comments were pretty interesting from today, right? 3 safeties, you're going to see it. And maybe it won't be their base defense or whatever it may be, but they're going to find a way to get all 3 of those guys, CJ, Afatu Melifonwu, and Kirby Joseph on the field at the same time. What do you think their workloads are going to be? Because it's a weird situation, right? It's their first NFL game action for Aleem. It's his first action since the beginning of December. And CJ hasn't seen a football field in over 3 months. Right. So what do you think? A big workload? Do you want them to get NFL game speed ready, or dip their toes in the kiddie end of the pool?
Yeah, I mean, for CJ, I'd like to get him as much as possible, right? Even as a veteran, even as a professional as much as he is, and how hard he's been working to get back, there's nothing like game experience. There's nothing like just being out there and going through all those motions to be ready by the time playoffs hit. And so, yeah, I'd really like to see him get a big workload. I really don't know what they're going to do, though, Ryan. I don't think 3 safety sets are going to be the norm. I think those will be sub packages. To me, it almost sounded more like Aaron Glenn was just saying, yeah, everyone's going to get a good chunk. It's almost like the Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes thing, where it's sometimes those 2 will be out at the same time, but it's really one or the other, but both are going to get a ton of snaps. And so that it almost feels like there's going to each guy is going to get 66.6% of the snaps type of thing, where 2/3 multiplied by 3, you got 2 safeties.
Yeah. Real quick, I think to that point too, though, I think you want to have CJ playing with Kirby, and you want to have CJ playing with Afatu Melifonwu. If you're not going to be in you want as many opportunities to build in that communication, that baseline of communication between those guys, because they'll be rotating, like you said, a bunch.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. With he hasn't played with Iffy before. He doesn't necessarily have that communication built in. Doesn't necessarily have that chemistry built in. So yeah, that's a really good point that I hadn't considered. With Aleem, there's a little bit of that too, because one of the interesting things that also came from Aaron Glenn's press conference today was I was asking him about Alualu, because Alualu got a ton of snaps last week, and I'm like, that's interesting. He's also a veteran that you probably want. You don't mind relying upon in the postseason, right? You want guys who've been experienced and have been through that. And his answer was yeah, we were really excited about him. I thought he played really well. It's good to have a 37-year-old in the lineup, and I'm really excited to see what Aleem can do next to him. And so that's another chemistry thing where it's okay, let's get those 2 guys out there and see what they can do up the middle, and see if they can cause a little bit more disruption than we've seen most of this year. I don't think you necessarily have to get Aleem out there a ton. He's only been out for a month. He's a professional. His press conference was really fun and interesting too. He was talking about like, I almost feel like I'm coming off an off-season program. I'm that fresh because I've caught up on sleep. I haven't been running my butt off. And so it'll be nice to kind of just get him, same kind of thing, get your feet wet, but I feel like he's more of a guy that can probably hit the ground running.
Yeah, and also Benito Jones, right, added to the injury report with an illness. So that's the interesting calculus that's going to be going on along the interior of the defensive line. And that's the interesting thing too, I thought, was the Alualu stuff, because I mean the Lions do waive Isaiah Buggs.
Yep. And
it's like, oh, they really trust Alualu. Like not just it was weird because it's not like you look at the snap count, it's like, wow, he outsnapped all of the interior defensive linemen. Oh, they're waiving Buggs. Oh, like maybe this was almost making the best out of a bad situation, losing Aleem for a few weeks. Well, you get Alualu in the door and he fits right in. So yeah, that's encouraging.
Yeah, no question. Other things.
Is there anyone on the offensive side of the ball though?
That need to get the feet wet?
Well, we just talked defense, right? Like, yeah, and those guys are specific, situations or scenarios where you have guys coming back from injury. Yeah. Is there anybody on offense that, like, you need to like see anything from? Because I'm with you, like the skill position players, like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, like bubble wrap, like. Well, Frank Reynolds, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think all the intrigue on the offensive side of the ball are hitting records. Hitting certain marks, right?
Which is cool.
It's Sam Laporta setting all of these rookie records. It's David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs potentially both getting over 1,000 yards, which is the 7th or 8th time that's ever happened in the NFL, and I think only the 4th or 5th with a pair of running backs, because most of those include a quarterback. So like that's something to watch for and kind of like keep tabs on, and I'm sure the graphics is going to keep showing up on the screen how close each of those guys are. But in terms of like things to prove. No, I mean, like, maybe if we're talking about, I forgot this guy's name on Arif's podcast, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a guy that probably gets more playing time because I'm almost certain Jameson Williams isn't going to play this week. And so he's a guy that's shown up in flashes. He's made a couple of big catches here and there, but I think he's going to get a bigger opportunity in this week. And to have just another weapon that Jared Goff trusts would be helpful and to be clear, like, we don't know if Jameson Williams is going to be ready in the wild card round. We certainly hope so, but he hasn't practiced at all. We haven't seen him in the locker room at all. Dan Campbell said it wasn't a serious injury, but that doesn't mean it can't be a 2 or 3 week thing instead of just a 1 week thing. So I think maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones is one of those guys where it's like, I'd like to see him make a little progress, get a little work with Jared Goff, and maybe make 3-4 catches this week instead of his typical 1.
Yeah. Right. And I think the thing that's really reassuring is that we're not worried about expending another week on, can J-Mo and Jared Goff get on the same page? Because it feels like for the past few weeks, like each week, I almost feel like we're stacking games in a way with J-Mo where I'm feeling that reassurance. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not just, he's not a one-trick pony. It's not an end around or a deep shot. It's like all of those things. It's the the slants that he's running and the balls that he's catching on the sideline and then making plays after. Like
contested catches.
Yes, the contested catches are something where it's like, man, like, rewind to August and it's like, can Jameson Williams catch the ball? and now he's doing things that, it's really reassuring if he can go in the wild card round. It feels like the Lions have a true ace up their sleeve. Yeah. And that's awesome to think about with this offense. But yeah, it's the defense really, right? Like there's just some things of how I want to see, where's Afatu playing? How is he being worked in and things of that nature. And maybe there's an opportunity for some outside corners, right? To maybe get some extra work where, hey, maybe they test some things out with Cam Sutton and how they might be bracketing a player like a Cooper Kupp or a player like a Puka Nacua or whoever it may be that they face in the wild card round, where they can test drive some stuff and be like, all right, this is how we can maybe not let a wide receiver get over 200 yards on us in the first round of the playoffs.
And is there a better wide receiver duo to like test run anything when in Addison and Justin Jefferson? I mean,
there you go.
It be
Need
rough.
A better quarterback, but
True. That's very fair. But Mullins is capable of making good throws at times if he's comfortable. And
bad throws.
And bad throws. No question about it. But he's really moved that offense pretty consistently. It's just the turnovers that have been his issue, and so the Lions are probably going to look to continue that trend. It's what they continue to talk about in their improvement, which is a little bit interesting to me. It's not about improving necessarily on a down-to-down basis with them. It's creating those disruptive plays, and they've been good about it really over the past 3 or 4 weeks. Not just, the 4 interception performance helps, but they created a couple last week with the fumble and an interception. They created a couple against New Orleans. They created a couple, I think, the other week that I'm not. The Bears? I don't know if they got one against the Bears. But either way.
No. They did against the Broncos. Remember, they won
the Broncos.
turnover
That's
margin.
what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, the Lions credited their defensive turnaround last year with the proliferation of a bunch of turnovers. And I know Dan Campbell believes that's what's happening right now. We're starting to witness that turnaround on defense primarily because of the turnovers. And I think I feel a little bit weird about that because I do feel like turnovers can be very hit or miss. They can either come in waves or you can go long periods of time without them. But at the same time, those tend to be forced in some way or another. And it's hard to deny that if Fatu Melifonwu is forcing plenty of those on his own, whether he's making the right reads in the secondary or providing pressure, he forced a sack and forced a fumble via sack. Kirby's playing better. Aiden's getting 3 sacks a game. And so all of that, I think, leads to more turnovers, leads to more disruptive plays, leads to more negative plays. And while you still might get burned for 350 yards, if you're getting those plays, you're potentially getting off the field, and that's what you need to do to win these ball games.
Yeah, for sure.
Last thing before we go, Jason Kabinda?
Okay.
He's probably going to play in this game. I don't know if I really want to talk about Jason Kabinda, but it's probably worth noting that he's probably going to even be tight end too. Listen, it's clear this team values something about Jason Kabinda, and I think it probably just goes beyond, special teams. They activated him for a reason, right? I know they then released him and he's on the practice squad, but he's going to get called up because they cut Ferkser today. You still don't have Brock Wright. And so you're going to need someone who can play something that resembles a tight end. And so it'll be that guy. And that's not that exciting, but I felt it was important to throw it out there.
No. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he's used. Yeah. Cause I didn't even think too much about him being used as tight end too. James Mitchell is still there, but
yeah,
maybe they might use this as an opportunity to be like, okay, well, you know what, run a route here or there and see what we can do. If there's one other thing that we won't see in the Minnesota game that fans are hoping to see the following week, it's James Houston, man. And I guess my question to you would be, how nervous are you with putting a player as green as James Houston still is to the sport of football?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like he talked about that, right? He talked about how I just picked up football my senior year of high school.
Yeah, he played 1 year in college. Senior year he got injured, but 1 year before that. And then obviously rotational at best at Florida, gets 1 year at Jackson State and 9 games in the NFL?
Half a season in the NFL? Yeah. What's your confidence level of James Houston going into the wild card round, and how often do you think fans should expect to see him on the field if he's healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, it's hard, man. Part of me is still holding out hope that he plays just even a 10 snap game this week. I'd love to see. I feel like it's so important to him, and it's not completely off the table. Dan Campbell kind of said off the cuff on the radio that he doesn't see James Houston playing. That was on Tuesday. They hadn't even practiced, so it's there's a small potential that James Houston shows enough in practice this week to get a little bit of a gig. That would be ideal, because I do think it's concerning for any player to come off the bench after missing 4 months of not just playing, of practicing, and then just coming in and firing out of a cannon and being ready. I do kind of think they're not going to have much of an option though, because they cut Bruce Irvin, and to me, the more and more I hear about it, the more and more it sounds like there was something mutual going on. Maybe Bruce Irvin didn't want to be around. I get the sense that if everyone was on board, Bruce Irvin would still be on this team, and maybe would be that kind of insurance case in the playoffs. If they didn't think James Houston was ready, Bruce Irvin would be playing. Instead, I don't know who else you got. I don't know who else you can trust to be that third down, obvious passing situation pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. There just isn't a guy. And so if James Houston overruns the guy and loses contain on a guy once or twice in a game, but he still provides a sack or two, I think you're just going to have to say that was worth it, even if it is going to hurt, even if he can potentially hurt you. I think you just have to put him out there.
Yeah, I think so too. Just because you look at the way that role has been cycled through. I mean, it's Julian Okwara, it's Charles Harris, it's Bruce Irvin, it's Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that honestly, they probably got to the point, I think, in the season where it was like, okay, screw it. We're just going to have a linebacker rush.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be Anzalone who we're going to send extra, or it's going to be Barnes and he's going to run right past Dak Prescott in the end zone. You know what I mean? It feels like it's morphed into, it's just an extra pass rusher. We'll just put somebody on the field and they're going to rush.
Yeah.
Which feels less like a role and more just like, you know what I mean? Like, very situational. And I'm hoping that he can see the field this week, right? For even just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that seems like an awful lot to put on a kid, as young as him, as green as him, as somebody who was repping with the third team in training camp and whatnot, right? Like, you hope that you can get him on the field, but it's, I mean, the defense, right? Like, some really, really big additions that they could be getting back that, like, are big-time impact players that, go to what you're saying, Jeremy. Like, that's how you generate turnovers. Aleem McNeil getting push up the middle. C.J. Gardner-Johnson ball hawking, right? James Houston coming off the edge and putting, a team behind the sticks.
Yeah. Could
be big, big things for a defense that's kind of been middling.
But I would argue trending up a little bit. Right?
And those three guys could really set it on Dan Campbell, right?
Right. That's right. And yeah, I think, listen, build some confidence this week, right? You don't have to necessarily win the game, but show up. Make Nick Mullins uncomfortable. Cause a couple more turnovers, and then you'll make, I think, a lot of Lions fans feel better. Maybe don't give up 400 passing yards to Nick Mullins. Because, here's the thing, and we're going to get into it in the next segment. It's very likely that this team's next opponent is either going to be the Rams or the Packers, and both those teams happen to have some of the hottest passing offenses in the league. So if you can build a little confidence this week, you can show that maybe it's not only just about turnovers, but we can get the hand on them. We can knock away some passes. We can force some incompletions. We can force some punts. I think that could do a lot going into the playoffs. But let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to get into some of these other Week 18 games to see who the Lions' next opponent will be, what seed the Lions will finish in, and what's the likelihood that they face some of these teams. So we'll preview some of those other NFC matchups in Week 18 when we come back here on a very special edition of First Byte. We'll be right back. All right. Hello, live audience. Hello, live chat. I'm sorry that you're all still very upset that Arif is not here. I apologize. It is my personal responsibility. I'm the one to blame. Put the blame on me.
Who sings that song?
I'm not even sure it was a song. Put the blame on me. Is that a song?
There's lyrics.
Bring in Ruby. Ruby, what happened to your fantasy team? You're the only person in the world I've ever asked about their fantasy team, by the way. So you should feel special about that. All right, let me get to some alerts while we wait on answers. Akon is what chat says, by the way.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Yep, that's it. Cool.
Uh, Katie from Michigan, 39 months subscribed to the channel on Twitch, says Decker reported 12-4. Sure. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm sorry.
No.
Be Jesus or Be Jesus, 10 months subscribed to the channel, says Twitch is reporting I'm eligible for a 10-month anniversary. Facts.
As long as you got confirmation.
That's right. Hockey, 23 months subscribed to the channel, says, in your opinion, would you rather face the Packers or Rams? Sorry if this has been asked before. We'll probably get into it in the next segment. My short answer is the Packers. I did write about it as well. Nick the Greek, 100 bits, says, where the heck, I'm just going to say, is Arif, you fascists? I don't know, probably in his place.
Probably doing like socialism stuff.
Yeah, definitely doing socialism stuff. 100%. No, he's actually, he tipped me in. He's working on kind of a big, interesting story.
Oh,
I can't, that's all I can say about it, but I was intrigued by it.
that's fun.
JC, 6 months subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much. Joshua Mercer, 43 months, says, I'm creeping on having 5 Twitch babies. I don't think I can handle 5 babies. Come on. You'd make a great quintuplet father. Don't talk to yourself like that. The Zoe, 10 months subscribed to the channel, says Controlled Fury. Let's get the playoffs started. See, that's kind of why we didn't do a standard preview. It's like all I want to do is talk about the playoffs. I don't care about this game. I'm going to have the most
meaningless
half-assed on paper for you guys tomorrow. That's not completely true, but it's just I think this game is going to go one of two ways. I think the Lions are either going to win a close one very similar to the first game, or I think they're going to blow the pants off them. Because I think there's a chance that, like, I mean, look what happened to them last week, right? That was the real last swing, and they just got blown out of the freaking water. And so I don't know if they have anything left.
I don't think so either. Very strange, though, how the line has moved from...
Yeah, was it like 4.5 and now it's 3?
It was all the way up to 5 at one point, and it's 3, which would lead me to assume that a lot of people are taking the Vikings +5.
Yeah. I don't quite get it either.
Yeah.
I assume Jefferson plays. He's not injured, right? He's not on the injury report. Nick the Greek
will not be playing.
No. He tore his ACL, right? Mm-hmm. ACL and MCL, I think, or something.
Yeah, two CLs for sure.
Both of the CLs. Is there a third? Oh, there's a PCL.
I think there's a LCL too.
What?
I don't know.
How many?
I'm not a doctor.
I don't even know what CL stands for.
Crucial ligament.
That makes sense. I did know ligament.
So ACL, right, is anterior crucial ligament.
There's not an RCL. You guys are making things up.
LCD.
Cruciate.
Shit. Whatever. Close enough. Sounds Latin.
Guys, we're not doctors. In case that wasn't clear, we are not doctors. We don't know anything about cars either.
Trying to make sure nobody sees my English degree. There we go. Mr. Poopy Butthole. UCL, MCL, LCL, and PCL.
All right.
There we go.
I'm going to start a cover band called LCL's... Wait, Star System? Wait, what's it called?
Is it LCD sound system?
Sound system. I just ruined my own joke. Anyways, Nick the Reek 100 bits says Ryan Matthews murdered Arif Hassan and is going to use his dead face as an Arif mask. Can you confirm or deny that?
That it sounds like the plot to a twisted Batman comic.
Sounds like the movie Face Off to me. Although I guess he wasn't murdered. Both people were still alive. when they switched faces.
Is that Travolta and Cage?
Have you not seen Face Off?
No.
Ryan.
Dude, I'm sorry.
It is the most ridiculous movie ever, and it ages poorly in a way that it actually ages amazingly.
Okay.
It's great.
Is it great? Like, are you gonna put your reputation on the line if I watch it?
I think it's impossible even today to watch that movie and not have a lot of fun.
Okay. All right. That's all I want. That's all I want from movies these days. Is like, I want to have fun for 2 hours.
I can't sit here and tell you it's a good movie, but it's a fun movie.
Okay.
Joe Spinola. I will say there are probably, now that I think about it even a little more, I'm sure there are like some things that are like super not okay now that may have been painted in more of a like fun light, but it's still a fun movie.
Sure. I know what that's like. I watched Head of State the other day with Chris Rock.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I don't think I ever saw it, but
yeah, I mean, you can venture to guess the kind of jokes in that movie.
Yes. Joe Spinola, thank you for subscribing over on YouTube. JT Sam, 20 months subscribed on Twitch, says just make Kabinda team chaplain at this point. Oh, come on. They like Kabinda. He plays well on special teams. Nick the Greek, 100 bits. I'm going to pass on that one this time. Aria Ronquist, thank you for the $4.99 super chat on YouTube. Says, do you think our motion offense is becoming too predictable? No, I don't. I do think I think here's the thing, like the motion that they run, and I noticed it a lot in the Cowboys game, it was consistent almost every single play. It was almost the exact same motion every single play. And while that is predictable, when you do it and you run a ton of different plays, it makes it that much more unpredictable, right? If you're seeing the same motion every single play, you're going to essentially lull the defense to sleep because they don't know what they're going to see after that, because they've seen everything after that.
Mm-hmm. Then you hit them over the top.
Exactly. You hit them over the top. If you're running Amon-Ra in motion at the snap every single time and he's not getting it, well, guess what? At some point he is going to get it. But if the defense sees it so many times and they become accustomed to not having to follow him and keep your eyes on him, eventually you're going to take your eyes off him. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt him.
Another guy you didn't mention in the first segment, he's got a chance to get 1,500 receiving yards.
Oh, yeah. Where's he right now? I literally have the stats pulled up in front of me.
It's like an outside shot, but like it's
1371, so 129.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's crossed over 100 8 times this season.
Yeah, it's not like anybody here has $20 on him to get 1,500 yards.
Was that a beginning of the season prop bet?
It was plus 2,000.
Ooh, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So, was that 400?
300.
300.
I might be doing the math wrong. I might not have put that much on it, but.
Woodchuck Hunter, 100 bits, says, talk about Kelly Stafford and how she thinks the NFL is scripted to have the Rams play in Detroit. No. No. Thank you for the 100 bits. No.
Oh, thank you, but no.
Be true. 12 months subscribed to the channel, says happy anniversary, boys. Happy anniversary, Be True. Thank you for the full year subscribed to the channel. Nick the Reek, another 100 bits, says Jeremy Reisman's bewitching mustachioed mouth. I don't know when I'm going to shave it. Part of me thinks like as soon as the playoff run is over. But if they win the Super Bowl, maybe I just never shave it.
Ooh. I think I was thinking earlier back to like November because I was getting myself trimmed up, and I thought about how bad the Lions played in November for the most part.
Yeah.
And because I was like, maybe I'll just do a mustache. Like that might be good luck. And then I was like, how did November go? And I was like, I'm gonna keep the beard.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, with me, like, They started to turn around once it became a very full mustache. That's when the ship got righted. The universe did not like the crusty, patchy mustache.
Yeah.
Understandable. I didn't like it either. I hate it every time.
Yeah.
Not that obvious. 7 months subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much. Liam, 13 months subscribed to the channel. And Asian Mercs, 1,000 bits, says, love the show. I bought my playoff tickets today. Hey, good for you. Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
When do you want that playoff game to be?
Definitely not Monday.
I agree.
Do you think there's an outside shot, though, that it is?
Of course. Yeah.
Just because it might be... I mean, if it is Lions-Rams, why would you not want to put that Monday night?
It's 100% going to be primetime if it is, right?
Oh, yeah. There's no way it's a day game if it's Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. So, in case you're wondering what the schedule is, I'll throw it up on the screen here. We obviously don't know the teams, and we won't until the matchups are set. But you get 2 games on Saturday. I think this is going to be like a 4:30 and an 8 type of situation. Sunday, you're going to get a normal kind of Sunday lineup where you're going to get a 1 p.m., you're going to get a 4 p.m., and you're going to get an 8 p.m., and then you get a Monday night game. So I believe, I could be wrong on Saturday, but I think Saturday is going to be a 4:30, 8 p.m. type of thing. It might be a 1-4.
No, I think it's usually like I feel like there's a late game on Saturday usually.
Yeah. So they're essentially going to be 3 primetime games. Half of the games are going to be a primetime game.
Yeah. And Lions Rams would, even Lions Packers would, I feel like Lions Packers would be one too.
It could be. It depends.
It's divisional.
The thing that it depends on though is like you're going to have Dallas playing, you're going to have Philly playing, you're going to have big markets playing. And so those teams might
that's good
pull
point.
in and I don't even know what the AFC playoff picture looks like. I don't even know. I'm sure they're going to be, I mean, Kansas City is not going to have a bye. Kansas City is a primetime candidate anytime they're on TV, anytime Taylor Swift is in the audience.
Yeah. I'm going to look right now, AFC. So, as it stands right now, it would be Miami versus Indianapolis. That screams 1 o'clock somewhere.
Yep. Yeah.
As it stands right now, and a lot could change, right? Because you have Miami Buffalo on Sunday,
right?
Which could upend everything. But 3 versus 6 right now would be Chiefs versus Bills, which is prime time.
Yeah. Yep.
Not even a question.
Yep.
And 4 versus 5 is Jacksonville Cleveland, which again,
afternoon.
That's an afternoon game.
Yep. So we're running out of slots that aren't prime time for Detroit. But right. I don't think Detroit Green Bay would have that much of a national allure.
Probably not. It definitely wouldn't. It wouldn't trump Dallas, Los Angeles. Like that would be prime time over Detroit Green Bay, right?
Yeah. 100%. Another 500 bits from Asian Mercs, who says this tip is for Ryan. Give us a lock bet for the game on Sunday.
For the Lions game? That's tough. It feels like you should just hit the over on Justin Jefferson, right?
Probably.
Whatever it's set at. Take the alt, get it at like plus 250 or whatever, and just take like over 120 yards by Justin Jefferson. Like, that'll just happen. Like, and I don't even mind if it happens. You know what I mean? Just so long as it looks like they're trying different things other than just Cam Sutton, go take care of him. Like, because it doesn't seem like that's working so well.
Let's be honest. Don't gamble on week 18. Just period. Don't gamble on week 18.
Can I tell you that week 18 is like one of my favorite weeks to gamble?
No, Ryan.
But you hear me out. It's incentives week.
Oh, like they're offering a bunch of like free bets and stuff?
No. Like Jordan Love has like $4 million in incentives at stake.
Asian Merc just told me to shut up, by the way.
Why would I why would I not be taking out a small loan to put on Jordan Love?
So let's say Jahmyr Gibbs, over under set at 70 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
He needs 85 to reach 1,000.
Yeah, over. For that, well, hold on. Those are fun bets, right? Like I'm talking about like where money's on the line. You know what I mean? Like that's
Okay.
enough. That's enough motivation for any guy to be like, oh yeah, no, like I'm showing up to work today because I can make an extra $500,000. You know? So
Have any of those been released for the Lions? Like, is there any Lions player? I haven't seen any.
that's what originally what I wanted to write for Friday Detroit Direct, but I couldn't find any reliable information on incentives. So,
All right.
yeah.
Nick the Greek just dropped 400 bits in 100 segments. Dan Pask's 39 bitter American ex-girlfriends. Jeremy Reisman's 14 terrible mumble matches. Eric Schlitt's 22 delicious snack foods in the desk drawer. And Ryan Matthews' disgusting DoorDash order history.
What do all the numbers represent?
I don't know. You didn't get a number.
Yeah, well, everybody else did.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt left out.
When's the last time you DoorDashed?
It's been a while.
Good for
Which
you.
I'm pretty proud of.
That
yeah.
is. I ordered on the way home today.
Yeah. JC, so Jordan loves incentives. A lot of them are excuse me, a lot of them are finishing like either in the top half or the top 10 of all these different quarterback categories. So there's one for passing yards, there's one for passer rating, there's one for passing touchdowns. Like a lot of them he's going to cash. But he legit has 4 million at stake this week. Like 2 million he pretty much has hemmed up and locked up and ready to go, but there's like another 2 million on the table that like he could play his way into. Which is why we'll talk about it next segment, but I'm really hoping for a 49ers win. Because I think the Packers are going to take care of business. It should be a good game though, right?
Which one? Sorry, I got distracted.
Packers Bears.
Yes. I do think that's going to be.
It should be a good football game.
I agree. Yes. Those are two football teams that are playing good football right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very basic, boring statement to make, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to get into it?
Let's go.
All right. We're going to get back into it. We're going to talk some other Week 18 matchups, and I'm going to pull up all of the matchups so that I don't forget, because I'm a very forgetful person.
Asian Mercs, hit it.
Don't do it. Whatever he just said to do, don't do it.
Justin Jefferson. This seems kind of low still, but 120 plus receiving yards at plus 235. 120 yards is a lot of yards.
I hope they shut him out.
To Jeremy's point, it's some truly sicko stuff if you're betting on like Rams 49ers. Like you don't even know what, like you're betting on the preseason basically. You're betting on preseason football.
Yep. All right. I'm going to get into it. Excuse me. Sorry for coughing in your ear. And we are back here on First Byte, Week 18 special edition. We just got done talking about Lions Vikings and previewing kind of what we want to see there. Let's talk about some of the other games that impact the Lions in terms of NFC playoff positioning. And let's start by just let's get the hope out of the way. Let's talk about what needs to happen for the Lions to get the 2 seed. Both games again happened at the 4:30 spot, so the NFL seemed to purposely do this where the Lions don't have a ton on the line, and everything else in terms of NFC playoff picture happens. They're like 7 4 o'clock games this week, which All the Lions fans are gonna want to quad box it, watch Red Zone, whatever, to keep an eye on it. But let's talk about what needs to happen for them to get that 2 seed. Dallas at Washington and Philly at the Giants. Lions need the home team to win both those games. They need the Giants to beat Philly. They need Washington to beat Dallas. Let's start with Dallas-Washington. I believe Dallas is either a 13 or a 14-point favorite. Are you holding out any hope at all that there's an upset in that game?
No. Short answer, no. What a strange week for Washington too, because they said, "Oh yeah, Jacoby Brissett, he's gonna play," and then it was, no, he's got a hammy. Sam Howell, you're back up, and it just such a strange, like, I'm just so glad that the Lions aren't in a spot like Washington's in, right, where it's like, oh, like, hey, our quarterback who could have been the quarterback of the future at the beginning of the year, we're going to go with Jacoby Brissett for the last couple of weeks until Jacoby Brissett can't go. And okay, now you're back into the fold. And it's like, what a lose-lose situation for Sam Howell. Like, poor guy. But Jeremy, it almost seems like it's not worth talking about because the Lions need both these teams to win, right? And it seems like the odds of that happening are so astronomical that if you were to put that together in a parlay, you'd have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that some people are trying to hold on hope for is that Dallas is a very different team away than they are home, which is true. But I feel like that's essentially the only thing you can really hold out hope here for. The previous matchup was 45-10 Dallas. They won by 5 touchdowns, again, at home versus away. And it was a 4-point game deep into the second quarter. It was 14-10 Dallas. And it was only a 20-10 game at halftime, so they really poured it on in the second half. So, I mean, that's kind of how I view this game might happen. Like, Washington might come out and hold this one close in the first half, get Lions fans' hope up, and then just get washed out in the second half. That's what happened last week against the 49ers. I think they were winning at halftime of that game against the 49ers and then just got steamrolled. It was 13-10 San Francisco at halftime.
Close game.
They didn't score in the second half. And so that's kind of how I view this one playing out. It's like maybe Washington keeps it close for, it's a divisional game, it's on the road, blah, blah, blah. But if you're looking for like legitimate, other than these kind of, common things, tropes that I'm throwing out, road team, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's hard to look at a matchup here and be like, yeah, Washington's got a shot.
Yeah. And it's true. You look at the other matchup, you look at Philly versus the Giants.
Yeah.
Philly could really lose to anybody at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a bummer because say that situation does play out, Tyrod Taylor balls out, gets a win against Philadelphia, the Cowboys roll over the Commanders, Cowboys are the 2 seed. I just want the sour grapes to stay in a bottle somewhere. Let them do whatever wine does and just open that bottle later. Okay.
Ferment, I believe is the word you're looking for.
There you go. Thank you. Let those grapes do their thing, but like I just don't want to even, I don't even want to think about it. Like we're so far past that game and it's like so it feels like, Jeremy, when we move past these 2 games.
Well, real quick before because I'm going to look at the positive spin on that situation because yes, if that happens, a good portion of the fan base is going to be mad that the Lions then don't have the 2 seed. Yeah. But I think I do like having Dallas have that 2 seed over Philly. Because theoretically in the second round, I would rather have to travel indoors to Dallas. I know they're an amazing home team, but the Lions just showed they can hang in Arlington. I would rather them have to do that than go in Philly in the winter, potentially in a snowstorm. Even though I think Philly is a much worse team than Dallas, I would still rather go to Dallas than go to Philly.
Jeremy, have you seen the Lions play in Philly in inclement weather before? Has that happened before? I'm pushing Jeremy's button.
Because I cut you off and made you go back on the topic, you just twisted the knife on me from the stupid Jeremy Ross, LaShawn McCoy game. How dare you, sir?
I'm sorry, but it's a great point. Like I'd rather see the Lions on an indoor track, right? Like as long, right, as RJ mentioned last week on First Bite, as long as it's not at 4:00,
right?
Like, we don't need the sun in the eyes of Jared Goff at any point in that game. And we're already talking about the second round. So can we go back to first round scenarios?
Yes.
Because it all hinges, right?
Yep.
On two other games. It hinges on a what I've labeled the game as a mid off between Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold.
I'm going to need a reminder on which quarterback is on which team at this point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Man, it's been so long. Have you forgot that our old friend Matt Mayoko said that Sam Darnold was the best thrower in the history of the San Francisco 49ers during training camp. So Sam Darnold and the 49ers take on Carson Wentz and the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just Carson Wentz playing for Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp's not playing. They got some other, impact
the running
players
back
that
is out. Yep. Aaron Donald is out.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess first and foremost, who do you want to come out on top in that game? Is it a 49ers win that you're pulling for?
It is. Yeah. I don't want all the narratives. I don't want all the Matthew Stafford stuff. And I think that's a very dangerous team right now. It's a little frustrating because I almost feel like the NFC East loser is in a better position than the NFC North winner, because facing the NFC South winner is a better matchup than I think going against whoever is the 6th seed and most likely even who is the 7th seed. Like, I think the 4th seed is going to be the worst team in the playoffs, and arguably the 6th or 7th, maybe. Like, here's the thing: NFC South winner, love to go against. Eagles, I'd love to go against. 6th and 7th seed, I don't like. I don't like those teams. I don't like the Rams. I don't like the Packers. And that's kind of it. Like, if the Packers fall out and it's, the Saints or the Seahawks or the Vikings somehow get in, not scared of any of those teams. But I would definitely put the Rams near the top of my list of teams that I don't want to face. And so, yeah, I'm pulling for the 49ers win here. I think it's very, very much on the table. As we were saying in the first segment, it's not like these teams can bench all of their players. There's still going to be a lot of very talented players out there for the 49ers. I don't think the Rams have as deep of a bench. So when they're benching their 3 or 4 best players, I think they're worse overall than the 49ers. 49ers are also at home. They're also, I think, a 4.5-point favorite. So I think it's very realistic that even though San Francisco has literally nothing to play for, while the Rams only have a tiny bit to play for, I think the 49ers win this game, and I think that's the outcome I'm looking for.
Yeah. And then let's just talk about Green Bay, Chicago.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and we were talking about this in between segments here, but this is going to be a really good football game to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be super competitive. The Bears they've just been playing really good football, like, over the past, 6 weeks, basically, since Justin Fields got back. And, Green Bay, right? This is a team that, you just mentioned. They're a team that I'm not super confident going up against in round one if they're traveling to Detroit. And truth be told, how much of that Thanksgiving game is just a lot of confidence for a Packers team that, week 4 is a distant memory, right? Like, getting smacked around in week 4 is a distant memory, but Thanksgiving wasn't so long ago. And you get some of that, you get some of that juju going around in the locker room of like, guys, we did this like a month and a half ago. We can go and do it again, right? That's dangerous for a team that right now their offense looks pretty darn good when it comes to the passing offense, and that's the concern, right, Jeremy?
No question. I go back to my kind of preseason thoughts about both these teams. Like, we knew they were both going to be super young. We knew they were both going to have to do, have some adjustments. Green Bay with a new quarterback, Chicago with an entirely new roster. And the one thing I think we said both about those is, like, they could be a much different team in December than they're going to be in September and October. And that's pretty much how it's played out. Green Bay's kind of been a little bit more up, down, where Chicago's like down, down, down. Now they're starting to see that raise that kind of the Lions saw towards the end of last season. And here's the fascinating thing to me. I went to look at EPA numbers since week 11. On offense, Green Bay is number 2 in offensive EPA. Number 2.
Ooh.
They're only behind the 49ers. They're above the Ravens. They are above the Rams. They are above the Cowboys. They're above the Lions, who are at 9. 2, Chicago's defense since week 11. Number 1. Number 1.
That's pretty surprising.
Yeah. Their dropback EPA, number 1 by a pretty large margin. Their run defense is about middle of the pack, but that's, again, strength for strength. The strength of the Packers' offense is their passing offense. The strength of the Chicago's defense is their pass defense. And Chicago's offense has not been that bad either. They're middle of the range. I think they were 17th in EPA. And that's why I think Chicago could beat Green Bay this week, because Green Bay's defense, or since week 11, still crap. 27th in EPA. And so I think I'm going to call my shot now. I think the Bears win this game. I think they pull... Like, they pull the 2022 Lions comparisons full circle. They go 5. I think if they win this game, they go 6-2 in their last 8, and they knock the Packers out of the playoffs. Now, I still think the Packers might actually get in even if they lose this football game, but I'm calling the Bears. I think they win this football game. I really do.
That's a spicy meatball, especially because it's at Green Bay. It's Lambeau. Like, it's big time.
Who cares? Take them down in Lambeau. That's easy. That place is not the boogeyman it used to be.
No.
All the old fans are selling their tickets.
It's not the Lamborghini field that it once was.
That's right. Do you think I'm crazy, though? I do feel like that's very much within the realm of possibilities.
It is, just because I think that the volatility that Bears offense has with Justin Fields, right? Yeah. Like, there's a level of unpredictability in terms of Justin could show up and have like a 4 touchdown game, right? He could also go in there and he could turn the ball over twice and the Packers cruise to victory, right? Like, that could be true too. I do think the one thing that might be true though is that could be a very low scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a low scoring game. It's in the elements.
Division, baby.
That's how it goes. But yeah, it really feels like it's going to be one of those 2 matchups, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. So what are you pulling for then? What are you hoping for? What? I guess let's just take the 2 seed off the table. It's I think we both agree it is too far fetched. You never know in the NFL, and if home teams can sometimes pull off big upsets, but I think in general we're looking at this and we're saying it's going to be the 3 seed, which means it's either going to be the Rams or the Packers. What are you hoping for?
I just want the Lions to have a shot to win the rubber match between the Packers, and I think they would.
Yeah. Right.
Ultimately, I think that Thanksgiving was closer to an outlier than it was to a truth, and that was, that whole game boiled down to a quarter and a half of turnovers.
Yep.
The game started in the worst way it possibly could have with all the turnovers. Goff has since, for the most part, cleaned that stuff up, especially the fumbles, right? Yep. Like, November was the month of fumbles and Jared Goff, and I think that has become less of an issue. The interceptions, but, I do think that they would just win the trilogy. Jeremy, I do. Yeah. I think that I probably feel the most comfortable and the most confident in the Lions beating the Packers than I do a Rams team that, my God.
Yeah.
The one team out of maybe the entire outside of the 49ers, and you said this on our podcast earlier this week, right? Like, it's probably the one team that I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs outside of the 49ers would be the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, and to me, it comes down to defense. Not that the Rams have an excellent defense. I don't think they do. I think they have a very beatable defense, but the Packers, to me, are just an absolute fraud on that side of the ball. And I don't know how they did it, but they somehow got the Lions on Thanksgiving. They caught the offensive line in maybe their worst game of the season. And once the Lions kind of fell behind, it just they could never get it going again. And so as long as they don't fall into that quick of a hole like they did on Thanksgiving, I think they're going to go toe-to-toe with them. I do think Green Bay is going to get their own on offense. So it's a young, talented core of receivers, but they're not that good at running the ball, even though I know Aaron Jones is back now, and he looked really good last week. The Lions can shut that down. They can force Jordan Love's hand, and I think when it comes down to it, I trust Jared Goff against one of the worst defenses in the league more than I trust Jordan Love against just a below average defense. So yeah, I'm with you. That's the matchup I'm looking forward to, and hopefully that's the one we get.
Well, and I know we have to watch the Lions at 1:00, even though we just spent like a first segment talking about how meaningless this game is. But like, what's the 4:00 game that you're most intrigued to watch?
I mean, I think it is Chicago Green Bay, because to me, it's not even just about whether the Lions are going to get Green Bay or not. It's the future of the NFC North.
Yeah,
I've been saying for a couple weeks now, I think this division is going to be very, very competitive next year. Maybe one of the best in the league. And it's crazy to even say that, considering every single other team in the NFC North has a quarterback decision that is critical going forward. But to me, like, many of those are trending in the right direction. And, with Chicago's defense turning the way it is, with how young the Packers are on offense and now starting to figure things out, it's a very scary but also very exciting division. So I think that's like a future of the NFC on the line there, because let's be honest, if Green Bay makes the playoffs, I know they're a good story right now. I know they're playing really good football right now. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They might win a playoff game. They're not going to make a ton of noise. What they're really doing is like starting to state their cases, like, look out, we're coming. And so the Bears can be like, you're coming, but after us. Sounded weird, but yes.
It seems it's just so strange that back in October, I think everybody outside looking in at the NFC North was saying that's the worst division in football.
Yeah.
Right? By January, it's one of the most intriguing, and it could be shaping up to be one of the better divisions in football next year.
No question. What about you? Is that the game you were thinking, or is there another one you want to watch?
I think so. I'm also just kind of generally intrigued, and maybe I'm channeling my inner Chris Perfett, but like 49ers and Rams is just going to be like fun to watch from the standpoint of like, is either team trying to win the game?
Right. Get a tie. You want a tie? That's really channeling your Chris Perfett if you want to do that.
You remember the game? Was it down to that point? What was the game last year where both the teams could just agree to like end up in a tie?
Yeah, if they would have just agreed to tie, they both would have made the playoffs, but like one team eventually won. I don't remember who that was, but
yeah, I feel like it was Raiders somebody, but it was like,
it definitely was.
Can't both Raiders Chargers? Yeah, it's like, can't we just both take knees and we can both make the playoffs?
If only we could live in harmony like that, but alas, we cannot. But Ryan and I can have a harmonious relationship even when we don't have a third guest here, when we have Arif here trying to tear us apart.
Precisely.
That's going to do it, though, for this special First Bite edition. We will be back to our normal format. I put normal in quotations because this is going to be the first ever playoff First Bite? No, we must have had one in no, I don't know. 2017?
2016.
2016. Maybe we had one then.
Well, technically it was 2017, but yeah. Was First Bite a thing in 2017?
I have no idea.
It was.
Either way, I promise you we will have some sort of guest, break it down, and get ready for a real fun January ahead. But until then, for Ryan, I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. It's Chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
J-Dubs, thanks for the honest feedback.
Izzy, thank you for the 33 months subscribed. What?
Be true. We didn't do the one thing we think we knew.
It's fine. Don't care. We don't know anything about week 18. This is a public service announcement. Don't bet on week 18 because I don't have one thing I think I know.
There you go.
I ruined the spreadsheet. Izzy, thank you for the 33 months. Says 33. Hopefully the score difference this week. That would be nice. Then you can maybe throw in Hendon Hooker. You probably still won't, but
yeah, probably not.
No,
right? I don't think so.
You know what, Marty? That's the right attitude right there. This is the true Week 18 podcast. It's almost like they're resting their starters. That's right.
That was the thing I was going to ask you in the first segment that we didn't get around to was, what if the game is like lopsided or weird in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, what if like the Vikings are up like 21-3? No, I mean it doesn't
Lions,
matter.
just say the Lions are up 20.
Okay, Lions are up 21-3.
Awesome. Great.
Dan Campbell's going to play his starters in the second half.
Yeah. Maybe like if it's a 30-plus point game in the fourth quarter to start the fourth quarter, he might do it then. He might rest.
Okay. I was gonna say, what if the Lions had a start like they did against the Saints, where they put up 21 points in 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Right. Like if it's halftime and the Lions are up like 35-0 or 35-3, I think I'm more so with you. Like it's all about like the start of the fourth quarter. Like
Right.
they might get a quarter off.
I'll tell you this. If they're down 30 points in the fourth quarter, I don't think the starters are coming out.
I don't think so either.
And I think at the end it'd be like, I still thought we could win that game.
Dude, which just it totally feels like just hands up. Like you're just here for the ride. Like you're on the roller coaster. Like just enjoy it.
Man, I just thought, if we get this thing going.
My favorite, I don't know if I got to mention my favorite quote from last week. I think I did. I might have, but I don't like to lose, Dave, is probably one of my favorite drops that we could add to this podcast.
Dan has been on it all week, man.
Yeah.
In rare form. Like this is not the Dan Campbell I'm used to seeing, and I don't know if I like it, honestly.
You don't. I can tell by the way that you're reacting to a lot of the stuff that you don't like it.
I definitely didn't like the weird standoff on the radio. I'm gonna be complete, like, you guys know my feelings on 97.1 overall, so this is not me like defending that radio station, but the whole we had this conversation in Slack, but like the whole like, no, tell me like you tell one of your callers. It's just like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to get Jim Costa to call you an idiot? And what are you gaining from that? Why are you mad that he's treating you with respect right now? Why is that offensive to you?
Because Dan is a man of the people. You know what I mean? Like he's just like treat me like you would. Because honestly though, like I do go back to training camp and some of the early morning press conferences that Dan was having, the meetings with the media, and I remember him just bringing up a lot of like, oh, people see me in gas stations, and like it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable when they're like, saying some of the stuff they do. Because I think Dan like just wants to be a normal guy, even though he's not a normal guy.
Yeah,
he's ginormous. He wears a 3X t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like his shoulders are so broad that like he's not a normal person. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He's the head coach of the Detroit Lions. But like I think he yearns to be that guy. And also, I feel like he was probably just kind of riding that high of like, you know what? I want to hear it from everybody.
Yeah.
I want to hear everybody tell me how they really think it is to my face.
I want the league to show me this video of why I'm stupid and Dan Skipper's dumb and Taylor Decker never did any. And I want you to tell me I'm an idiot. I want you to tell me I'm emotional and reactive. And
yeah,
I don't know. That's I guess that's the thing that's partially unsettling for me, is that like he never loses his cool. Never.
Yeah. He's
been asked dumb questions before.
That we see, right?
Right. That's fair. But like even on I don't mind him losing his cool on the sidelines on Saturday night, but I'm like, that is an anomaly. He usually doesn't do that. And so the radio interview was what, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Three days later.
It was a good 48 hours plus removed from the event.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, you're still on fire. And listen, that Monday, I wasn't there on Monday because I was still battling the flu a little bit, but I was watching at home. That was as tense of a Dan Campbell press conference has ever gotten. That's not, again, that is 48 hours after the game.
Yeah.
And so like that part of me is like, are you okay? You keep saying like you've moved past this. You said that on Monday. You're like, I'm not even thinking about this anymore. Why are you guys still talking about it? And then the day after, you blew up on a radio host.
So in his defense, though, he might be past it, but people keep on bringing it up, and it's the same thing
Yes.
with us, right? Like
Yeah. Sure.
it's the same. It's the
You
same
know
thing I
what?
saw from the Pride of Detroit
God
account, where
damn it.
where
You're
it's
so right.
the same thing where it's like, oh, here's the NFL talking
Yeah.
about this, and it's like we want to be over it. We're all over it, but you keep bringing it up.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I got to look inward a little bit on that one because I even like that night, I was not that bad. Saturday night, I was not that bad. I'm like, you know what? I didn't really care if they won this game or not. It's kind of hilarious and frustrating that it went out this way, but doesn't matter to me. But like as it kept building and, you know, first comes the Pro Football Talk report saying like that, you know, they're blaming the Lions. And then you all probably saw it on Twitter. I lost it after the video. Like it was one of those things where like I couldn't think about anything else for the next 3 hours. I'm just like, what is this video? You've got to be fucking kidding me. Do you really think we're all that stupid? How are you ignoring everything that's actually happening in the video and you're circling the one thing that isn't happening? I was losing my mind.
That was the pièce de resistance, right? Like them circling Dan Skipper and it's like, this is illegal, and this is illegal, and this is illegal because all that stuff happened. And it's like, how do you think this video proves your point?
And like, I don't know why, but the thing that pissed me off the most is after that, they start talking about how it was an illegal formation, which nobody cares about because if you had declared the right person, it was a legal formation. So you are arguing against a point nobody is making. You are devoting 30 seconds of this video to something that no one is talking about because it's not freaking relevant. I don't understand what that was for, and it's just like, and the worst part of it is like, Dallas Cowboys in the mention saying like, see, I was telling Lions fans, even if he reported right, he was still in illegal formation. No, that's not true. You don't understand football. You don't understand what's happening. You are being fed this propaganda and it's working. And I hate you. I hate your stupid fan base. I hate Jimmy Johnson and his stupid face.
And fixing his belt on the sideline.
Just so stupid. And I'm getting worked up.
Jeremy, are you over it?
I'm over it.
Like Dan Campbell?
I'm over it.
Ryan, I'm over it. Why do you keep bringing it up?
Ryan. No, just say it like I'm a guest. Ryan, treat me like I'm a guest. Don't no.
Dan Skipper lined up legally.
Thank you. That's my favorite part. Like when he finally got what he wanted, all Dan Campbell said was "Thank you." That was it.
Yeah, and then wasn't there the question afterwards where I think like Jim said something like, would you have not gone for it? Would you have and Dan, you can tell Dan is almost like away from the phone or something because you just hear him go, no.
I love the man. I love the man. He's so funny.
Dude, I played it today. Like I played the press conference from Saturday night where he goes, I don't like losing, Dave.
See, we can laugh about it now. We are over it.
We are laughing about it, even though it seemed like we were pretty worked up about it about 120 seconds ago.
I don't remember that.
Me neither. I black out when I talk about
it. Now, I didn't see the funniness in I don't like losing Dave, but now that you said it twice the way you have and the way he said it, it's pretty funny.
Go back and watch it.
Can we watch it right now? Should we watch it right now?
Yes, it's hilarious. Also, like, you know how on the YouTube track bar it shows you like where the most watch points are?
Oh.
That part where he like lays into Dave is like it just like peaks.
Where is it? There we go. I'll be sure to share it so you can watch it too.
Yeah, because I enjoy it so much.
'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I enjoy it so much. 'Cause I en
A verbo is for
Because this is before the apology too. Like, because he's like going
Yeah.
off a little bit.
Well,
and then
he almost apologizes
apologizes
in the
sharing
same
all kinds of
sentence.
moments
Yep.
from post-concert.
We knew it was going to come down
We're
to
just
the
watch.
wire.
It's only
and,
3 minutes, which is
Thought
also
our defense
hilarious.
played really well today. You know, minus one play that was in our hands. You know, we did, but we were there to make a play. We didn't. And but other than that, I thought we did some really, really good things. Got off the field, got a takeaway, offense, 1:41 on the clock, no timeouts, linked in the field, score, and go for two. We get it, and we get an L. So it's probably the way the guys fought. We just made too many critical errors there to where it shouldn't have come down there at the end. Look, credit
Dude,
to them.
such a
They played
big
hard.
dip
You
in
know,
his
we knew they
mouth.
would.
Yeah.
He
They
did
gave us
have
the best
chew in his
shot,
mouth, Trevor.
and
He does a lot.
Yeah, I believe he's in a minute or two. He's going to walk to the side and spit it out.
Yeah, and oh yeah.
Played well at home. They did again. And we'll see them in a couple of weeks. Be good.
I like that. Like, he's ready to see the Cowboys already. We're gonna see him in a couple weeks. He's already.
Yep.
He's like, yep. We just won the wild card round. You just pissed us off enough to the point where we just advanced. Like, we got it.
70 reported.
There it is.
The explanation was 70 reported.
Wait for the mic. I love it.
Yes.
The sheet too.
Yeah. What is that? Like, what happens here?
And do they need to announce that if both players?
Both players
Two
can.
people can't report. I don't want to talk about it. All right. I explain everything pregame to a T. Okay? I did that.
I did that.
70 reported, 58 didn't, or
68.
68 didn't. We threw it to 68. That was the explanation.
Can you just explain the mentality to go for two there at the end? Obviously, you wanted to keep the game in your hand and try to win it.
I told the offense that we were going down 141 left. We're going to go down and score, and then we're going to go for two and finish this game out. I told them that, and so that's what we were doing.
And being backed up, that didn't change anything when you get backed up to the
Backed up
seven,
where?
to the 7 instead of the 2 from the 2-point play. Did you think at all?
We were going for the win.
Hell yeah, brother.
Didn't really answer the question.
the last 2-point play? What happened on that? Was that should James have caught that pass? What
Bad.
happened on that?
Not a great question.
We didn't connect. We didn't connect.
Dude, the way he's tapping the side of that podium.
Well, that,
I thought it just started, my bad.
CD Lamb, just the game that he had against you guys today.
He's a good player, you know. We tried to double him some, but we also wanted to pressure him. When you
I haven't
pressure
seen that
him,
bar
we,
now.
We got to be able to hold up. And,
Yeah.
You know, you get isolated, get some one-on-ones. He's a good player. We know that, but I thought we had the right balance.
But before we get to Dave's part, I think we should also acknowledge at this point that literally no one else has asked a question.
Just Dave.
Dave is being hung out to dry right now, strung out to dry. Like, there is no one else. And I think part of it is, like, there might not have been too many people there anyways. A lot of people are probably in the locker room at this point. The kind of regulars that would be there, like Justin Rogers did not travel.
Sick,
He was
right?
sick.
Yeah.
He's usually a guy that asks half of the questions in the presser. So, like, Dave is just trying to keep this press conference alive at this point. And
you could hear somebody too who got there late, right?
yeah, yep,
In the background, so they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was just getting started because Dan is like on fire."
right. And so I've been in these situations before where you're in a scrum and you don't want it to end after 1 minute because then you've lost an opportunity to ask. You've lost the opportunity for other people to come in and ask questions. And when you have Dan Campbell after this game, you need to make sure you have him for as long as possible because there's a lot of questions you should be asking him. And it's hard to think of every single one of them when you're the only one. You don't have time to think about what you're going to ask in between questions because you're listening to the answer.
Dude, and that game just ended the way it did. You're
Right.
trying to wrap your brain around
Right.
what you just saw.
Exactly. You're still processing everything. That's a great point too.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of people are hammering on Dave for this, but he carried this entire press conference. Like he didn't have a choice. And so were these the best questions? No. Were they the best way to phrase these questions? No. But he did get the majority of what we wanted to hear. And we got this also awesome moment that we're about to play. So this is me defending the reporter, which I probably do more often than people care to hear. But anyways.
He's tough to contain. He's tough. But I thought our defense played pretty damn good today.
We can see the frustration in your face. Can you just explain where it comes from right now? Is it the result?
What would you be? Would you be frustrated right now?
I mean, is it on the call? Is it on the execution? Is it, what is
I don't like losing, Dave. And that's what happened. We lost. And that bothers me. It bothers me. I don't like having an L. So that's the frustration. I'm sorry. I don't mean it at you.
I like that he twice used L. Like, that is so modern age.
Yeah.
call? Is it on the execution? Is it, what is
I don't like losing, Dave.
I don't like losing. He doesn't hit the Dave as hard as you hit it. It would have made it
doesn't.
slightly better, but
Yes.
still pretty good.
But I do think that that's the element of humor that I find in it is that Dave, like you said, Dave is carrying this entire presser.
Yeah.
He's addressing Dave and using his name like so very pointedly because it's I don't like losing Dave. Like you can hear the comma in there before he says his name, which I love.
Did I see Dave this weekend? No, I'm sure Dave doesn't care. Here's the thing.
Dave went through the Patricia era.
I don't want to get into specifics here because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and some things that stay in the locker room should stay in the locker room. But I will say there is one reporter today that got it a lot worse than Dave did for something, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. That was like a 1 out of 10. Even in general, we saw Dan apologize mid-sentence. Wasn't that bad. I think something like that happens once a week in most team press conferences, especially after a loss. Like, you're going to get a somewhat snippy coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is why I'm not going to say anything more about it. Is like this was kind of like a one-on-one conversation with someone who had beef with someone else. It's not going to show up on YouTube. It's not going to do any of the. I'm not at liberty to share that story. But the point being, clashes between media and athletes or coaches get way worse than what you just saw. Way worse.
Yep.
Anyways, probably time to get out of here. I did promise Eric that he can have the company Zoom at 9 here, so he can record his competitor podcast. Just kidding. We don't. We love DLBP. Is that right?
DLB, right? Detroit Lions Breakdowns.
I thought it was Detroit Lions Breakdown Podcast.
I don't think about you at all.
All right, guys, we will be back. I'll be back Saturday morning to do the Madden Sim for the first time in 3 weeks, which is going to be exciting and fun. And hopefully I'll find time to figure out the mod situation. And then we haven't quite decided what we're going to do for the post-game pod this week. I think the most likely scenario is after the entire playoff schedule has dropped, we'll get on here and talk about it for a short period of time. Just like a 15, 20-minute pod, setting the table for everything that happened on Sunday and talking a little bit about the matchup ahead. I think later in the week, we'll have a fuller pod that is going to serve more like a preview pod, but isn't First Byte. So like a main POD cast kind of preview, and then we'll do First Byte, which will be more of a, hey, guest, tell us about your thoughts. Whereas on the main POD cast, we'll give our thoughts about how the Lions match up against the Packers or the Rams or fill in whoever.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. All right. I think we're going to get out of here. Thanks for
Yeah.
all the subs, all the support, all the bits. A lot of bits today, so appreciate all the bits there. Plenty of content to come this week, a lot next week, and hopefully even more beyond that. But until then, guys, appreciate you stopping by, hanging out on a Thursday night. No Thursday night football, so where else are you going to be? Certainly not watching the Pistons or Red Wings. Are you pew-pewing from Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
That's going to be my new sign off.
What's that? Jesse Plemons? What was his character's name?
Todd?
Todd.